So with the release of Mission Impossible Fallout just 1 week away, this is the perfect opportunity for me to talk about all the Mission Impossible movies, from my least favorite to my favorite. I love these movies so much, and I've been waiting to talk about these movies. I'm so excited to. This is going to be a lot of fun. A few disclaimers before I get started. I mean, it's the internet. You gotta put disclaimers when you do a video like this. These are my personal opinions on these movies. You might have different opinions on these movies. That's totally fine. Let me know how you would rank the series in the comment section below. But with that being said, let's get started. Starting off my list, we have, in my opinion, the weakest one of this franchise, and that is Mission Impossible 2. Now, if you ask anyone who's a fan of this franchise like me, which one is the weakest Mission Impossible movie? Which one is the lesser one? It would easily be Mission Impossible 2. But why? Why is this one the weakest one? Well, for my thoughts, it's because the first movie was this really intense, action-packed, serious, yet smart thrill ride of an action movie. And this one tried to be a dumb, cheesy, over-the-top, fun 2000s action movie. And that's not what Mission Impossible is about. It felt really out of place when you watch the first movie, when you go into this movie. One of the things that they didn't get right is the character of Ethan Hunt, portrayed by Tom Cruise. They made him out to be a suave, kind of cool, laid-back James Bond character. And that's not what Ethan Hunt is. Ethan Hunt is a character who's focused, who's serious on the mission. He's not going to let anything get in his way. And in this one, he's flirty, he's, like I said, suave and cool. That's not what Ethan Hunt is. I can give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because this is only the second movie. They're introducing a new character for this franchise. They didn't really get their stepping in, so I can give it a little bit of the benefit of doubt, but not the much. There are some cool action scenes in this movie. When you look at it like the fun, over-the-topness, it is fun to watch. This movie is fun to watch, but at its core, this isn't what Mission Impossible is, and it's easily the weakest one of the franchise. Oh, I don't know how hardcore fans are going to take this one, but it's got to be done. Coming in at number 4 is the original Mission Impossible. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What? The original is ranked this low? How could you do this? Let me say this first. I love this movie. I love all the movies, even 2. I really love this movie. It just comes down to personal opinions on all the movies, not just one specific one. Just because it's the first one doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one ever. The reason why it's ranked a little lower for me is because, for me, it's the pacing. A lot of the pacing is kind of draggy. It's really slow. It takes a while for me to get fully 100% invested into the plot. Now, that being said, when I do start to get invested, it's great. This is, like I said in the previous one, this is a smart, intense, and a complete thrill ride of an action movie. I really do love this, even though it's ranked a little bit low. The characters are great, the action's great. That's another thing too. This is around the point where they started to use fully bodied CGI characters, and it really shows in this movie. It's rarely noticeable. But I can't really blame the movie for that entirely because that's just how it was for that time. They were trying new things, whatever. It may be ranked a little bit low, but that doesn't mean I hate it. I love this movie. I watch it all the time, and it never gets boring for me. I actually switched this one and the first one kind of all over the place when I made this list, but in the end I came to it as this. Coming in at number 3 is Mission Impossible 3. Now, why is this one higher than the first one, you might ask? Well, for me, this one is fast-paced. This one gets going right off the bat. The opening scene of the movie, I remember watching it for the first time, I'm like, whoa, what's happening? What is going on? And I was invested for the rest of the movie. I wanted to see how they got into where they were from the beginning of the movie. For those of you who don't know, slight spoilers, take it as you will. The beginning of the movie starts where the movie starts to end. And then when the title comes on, it jumps to the very beginning of the mission. Yeah. So when I saw the beginning, I was so invested on what was going to happen to lead up to that point, and the whole movie is an adrenaline thrill ride. It really got my blood pumping for every single action scene. This is J.J. Abrams' movie directorial debut, and he killed it with this movie. The characters are great. The action is beautifully well shot. The villain, oh my gosh. The villain for this movie is one of the best action villains I've ever seen in a movie. And that's something that unfortunately the Mission Impossible franchises struggle with a little bit, to get a great, compelling villain. And this one nailed it. I have yet to see a villain who tops this one. Mission Impossible 1 might seem a bit more smarter and more suspenseful than this one, but this one really gets my blood pumping and keeps me 100% invested from the beginning to the end, and that for me makes this one a little bit higher. Again, just my opinion. On to number 2 is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This was the movie that got me interested in Mission Impossible, and ever since then, I've been in love with this movie. This movie does everything right. It takes the adrenaline-fueled action of Mission Impossible 3, while also the smart level and the intensity of the first Mission Impossible, and it blends it all beautifully. Every single moment in this movie keeps you invested from beginning to end. And like I said, it blends it perfectly. The one criticism I have with this movie is unfortunately the villain. You know how I said Mission Impossible 3 had the best villain of the franchise? Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol has the worst villain of the entire franchise. It took me a while to even remember the villain's name. And it took me multiple viewings to actually catch on to the villain. That's how weak it is. So that's unfortunately what stopped it from being the number 1 pick for me. But besides that, everything is what you would want to see in a good action movie. And my God, the Burj Khalifa scene, I gotta talk about that for just a brief moment. That gets me every time. I'm afraid of heights, and every time I watch that, I cringe. I cringe at just the insanity that Tom Cruise does just to sell good action. And it's great. Alright, here we go. My number 1 favorite Mission Impossible movie. You probably already know what it is, because I haven't talked about it yet, but coming in at number 1 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I struggled for a little bit to figure out which one would be my number 1, Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation. But I watched Rogue Nation again recently, and I'm like, you know what? This one's got to be my favorite. It's no doubt that this one, for me, is the best Mission Impossible. It takes everything that Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol did and just throws it at you and ups the ante to 1,000,000. From the action, to the stunts, to the characters, to the locations, everything. The level is just up. And again, it keeps you invested in the story. The story adds on to what happened after Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and it makes you look back on Ghost Protocol with a little bit of sympathy for what the characters did. Now, what makes this movie the number 1 pick for me, besides just adding in all that stuff I just mentioned, is the villain. The villain is so much better in this movie. You understand where the villain's coming from. He's menacing. He's a lot more menacing than Ghost Protocol. He still doesn't compare to Mission Impossible's 3 villain, but nevertheless, he's a much better villain than Ghost Protocol. And that alone just makes it a little bit better for me, because there's a saying that your movie is only as good as your villain. And if that's the case, then this movie is fantastic. I love Rogue Nation. I love all the movies, but if I had to sit down and pick which one would I watch over and over again, it would have to be Rogue Nation. So guys, that's my official ranking for all the Mission Impossible movies up to this point. And if you don't agree with some of the points I made, then like I said in the beginning of the video, let me know how you would rank the franchise in the comment section. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. And I'm really excited to bring you my review of Mission Impossible Fallout. Once I give my review for it, I'll let you know where it stands in my ranking video, but I'm really excited to see it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I've got a lot of videos planned out, so look forward to those very soon. If you like this video, then hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, then click right here, and I'll see you guys next time.